I'll go ahead and hand it over to you to introduce yourself.
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks everyone for showing up. Let me try to get this where I'm centered a little bit more. So my name is Dan Pike. I'm your new general manager. I started the end of December in the middle of a snowstorm, and but prior to that, some of you may know me. I used to be the mayor of Bellingham in from 2007 through 2011. I've also worked most of my career with the state DOT and with the the Skagit Council of Governments, and I'm happy to be back in Bellingham and raised my family here for a few years in the early 2000s in Sudden Valley. Really liked the place and always felt like it had tremendous potential. And I'm here to help hopefully get it more fully realizing that potential and helping all of you make this a better community than it already is. So, and I found that one of the things that I liked when I was mayor was actually having conversations like this. I think it helps both. I used to say that I liked it if people at least understood that even when they thought I was wrong or stupid, that there was actually some thought frequently behind what was going on. And so hopefully I can provide some clarity and understanding. And also, I also find that it's really great for a great opportunity for me to learn sort of what's on people's minds and get some new insights that help me do a better job of managing Sudden Valley. So with that, mostly I just want to give this as a time for you guys to have your questions raised, and to the extent possible, I'll answer them now. If there may be some things where I'll have to go back and do some more research, or where there's not information or answers available yet, but will be later. So, so with that, let's go ahead and get people asking.
So we'll kind of use this. We'll use a similar format to community questions during or it's got a different term. The community questions section of a board of directors meeting, and in Zoom there's a raise hand feature that you can use to raise your hand to show that you have a question if you'd like to be part of the meeting. And we've got one already. So VJ's here. I'm going to go ahead and bring VJ on over, and you're free to unmute. And what's on your mind tonight?
Hi, Dan.
Hi, VJ.
Hi. Welcome to Sudden Valley, and Happy New Year to everyone.
Thank you.
To you. We like to think that you brought the snowstorm to us, but
I hope not.
As a warning shot, stay alert, right?
Right.
I had a question sort of related to that. I noticed that in the last couple of years, we didn't have so much weather, if I could say that. This particular snowstorm that we had during the Christmas New Year period was actually, what I wanted to say was that the potholes started to appear in, especially like on Louise View Road. And I mean, they were really bad. It was like dodging craters, actually, trying to negotiate that entire length of road till when you come out of the forest. And so I noticed that previously there were attempts to patch the potholes. And I don't want to get too far into this, but what I wanted to say was, what is the process? Is it the county that's actually the one who identifies, evaluates, and then takes action? Or can we initiate something?
So actually, for better or for worse, the county is not involved in taking, if you're talking about Louise View Road, if you're talking about, so the county roads, the roads the county is responsible for are Lake Whatcom Boulevard and Lake Louise Road, which is not the same.
I'm sorry, Lake Louise Road, yes.
Okay, so Lake Louise Road. So the interesting tidbit that I learned the other day from AJ Tischlater, who is the current board president, and I hope I didn't mangle his last name, but he said that Lake Louise Road, he believes, is rated as the worst road in the county's system in terms of its current condition. So, and actually I had a conversation with the county executive, Satpal Sidhu, recently, and I'm sorry I didn't have that information on hand at the time, or I would have asked him about what we can do to bump that up in the prioritization list. But I can tell you that that one of the things that can help is to contact your county council members and contact the county executive, Satpal Sidhu, as well as Public Works. And I mean, don't pester them, but send them an email just saying, hey, I live in this area. I have traveled this road a lot, and I'm worried about the damage it's doing to my car or the safety issues it presents or whatever, because all of those are valid concerns. And I can tell you those sorts of, thoughtful comments like that can really help sometimes get attention.
The reason I ask is if you and the association, the HOA, can get behind this. The reason I say that, and I'd obviously copy you with any communication with the council, but if the association can get behind this, because on Lake Louise Road, you have gates 5, 9, and 13 that have access, and we are sort of caught in that. 5, at least, you can slip out and get onto Whatcom Boulevard, and take that one. But otherwise, we're sort of locked into this to get out of the forest.
Yeah, in fact, I lived on just off gate 13 when I lived in Sudden Valley, and that was 15 years ago. And back then, the road was not properly maintained, and it looks like it hasn't been paved much since. So I don't, I can't speak for the board, to be clear, but I don't think anyone on the board would have trouble getting behind an effort to get more attention on that particular facility, that road. Right. And one of the things that I do bring is I've got good relationships with the county executive, with the mayor of Bellingham, with a number of our elected officials. Right. And so, I'm able to have conversations with them. I just talked with Sheriff Elfo actually today on some issues of safety around here. So, I want to use my connections to help open those doors and make people more aware of some of these issues. I'll certainly raise it with the board. I don't think they would have any objection at all to supporting an effort to get more attention paid to the condition there.
Because I think the last thing I just want to say on this was that replacing or repairing the potholes is a temporary fix at best, as we know that with the freezing and expansion with the ice and snow, you have the potholes actually break apart very quickly. So one would need to have this entire road paved at some point in the summer.
So really part of the problem is that the county for quite a while has not really had adequate funding to fully maintain their roads the way they should. So I used to, my background is I was a transportation planner for most of my career, and I managed a lot of projects. And one of the unfortunate realities is if you maintain an optimal preservation schedule for a road, it will last a lot longer and cost a lot less, including the cost of maintenance, than if you don't optimize that maintenance. Because then what happens is, and it's especially prevalent in areas like Sudden Valley where you get a lot more freeze thaw cycles, then you get little cracks in the road, water gets in there, it freezes, breaks stuff apart, and pretty soon you get what they call alligator pavement, and then from there it breaks down where they can't just patch it anymore very effectively. They really need to, and Sudden Valley or Lake Louise Road is certainly an example of this. Really what they need to do, and probably what stops them from doing it, is the expense, because it's become such a big problem. But they really need to repave the entire thing, basically from the substructure all the way up. So they need to put in new gravel as well as asphalt and paving. And that's a huge job. Plus, of course, it's a huge challenge because you do have a number of roads where the only way in or out is at least on a part of Lake Louise Boulevard. So it's a challenge. But it's a challenge that's the responsibility of the county. And I would encourage people to speak up with their county representatives and the executive about it. And we'll see what we can do. But I think that the board would likely get on board with you in that request.
And I think just related to what you just said, traffic flow, the construction trucks that come through, we have a lot more traffic like that on Lake Louise Road than on Whatcom Boulevard, I've noticed anecdotally.
Yeah.
That is a shortcut to all the projects that are happening within the different gates, especially like in Gate 5, there's been a lot of construction.
Yeah, I think for a number of reasons, I think for a number of reasons, it makes sense for the truckers to take that route. One of the challenges is those trucks. So a truck will do about 6 to 8 times the damage of a car,
Yeah.
a single truck will. So, sometimes I've heard higher numbers than that, but I'm just trying to be conservative. And so really it's part of the cost. A lot of this is related to construction of new homes. And it's one of the reasons that sometimes people have advocated for, assessing, putting different assessments on new homes or doing other things. There's a lot of facets at play there, but those trucks definitely, impact the quality of or the condition of roads. They do damage.
Well, thank you very much for that. I really appreciate your in-depth response. I did have wanted to ask you: are you open to, and I hope this doesn't open up a flood, to sending you just basically some things that are on one's mind for you to just provide some input?
Sure. And so I want to say, please feel free to do so. And I'll apologize up front now. There are a few people that have reached out to me early in my tenure, and I've been slow to get back to them because I came in literally during a flood and a snowstorm. And so there were a lot of things gathering my attention, which is an explanation. I don't mean it as an excuse, but I'm getting more caught up now. And I certainly appreciate getting information that community members share. So please feel free to send me emails or thoughts that way.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you for your thoughts.
All right. Thanks, VJ. I'll go ahead and return you to the attendees here. And if somebody else would like to jump up here, yes, we've got Amy. I'm going to go ahead and bring Amy on over, and you're free to unmute when you're ready.
Good evening and welcome. I was wondering if you have heard about the problems that so many residents have with receiving packages from the Postal Service and Amazon because of constraints, obviously what the post office is going through, and also the limited space we have for parcel lockers at our mailbox clusters. That said, I was wondering, would the association consider getting in on some of these free Amazon lockers, where we know that the Amazon people and the Postal Service people would love to have a consolidated address to take our packages to, because they do struggle. And I was just wondering if it's something the association would consider. It's for free, and if we just provide the space, they'll provide the lockers and a better service for us. That's all I had.
Sure. Well, thank you for that question, Amy. And that's a timely question. So I suspect that most of you know that we did work with the Postal Service recently because they had a huge backlog of packages at their Woburn station, which is where our mail comes through. 70% of that backlog were parcels for Sudden Valley. And the challenge that they had was, because of the snow and the inclement weather that we had and the volume of packages that people get these days, because a lot of us are doing more shopping by mail, so we spend less time face to face because of COVID or whatever. And so we worked with them. We provided them space in the ice barn, and in 2 days they got through just a huge amount of their backlog. So there were several things that were good about that. One is they contacted us on, I believe it was Friday. Well, I don't know what the day was, whatever day it was. They contacted us and wanted to start doing this the next morning, and we found a way to accommodate that. So I thought that was pretty good. So this is fairly early in my time here, which has only been a little over a month as it is. And I know that from talking to board members and staff members, Sudden Valley had been trying for some time to get the post office's attention and had not succeeded in doing so. And then when they were drowning in packages and realized that most of those packages were ours, then they called us, and that was very helpful because suddenly we had a human to talk to. And she was extremely helpful. She has the ear of the local postmaster. And so they are going to continue conversations with us about how to better manage getting the mail to Sudden Valley, including the packages. Amazon is a little bit different issue. We also apparently have had outreach with them, trying to connect with them. It is not something I've initiated yet since I've been here, but I'm going to try as well. But it was something that's been going on for the last couple of years, or at least for the past year. And Amazon has not returned our calls. So Amazon will provide lockers for free if they decide it's a place they want to. I'm not sure what the issue is with Sudden Valley, whether it's just that we're not enough on a main line for them, or, I think it's mostly a matter of them not hearing from us yet, not taking our calls and hearing what the situation is. So that is something that I'm planning to turn some attention to in the next few months. And so hopefully we can get some resolution. In the meantime, we're continuing our discussions with the post office about what else we can do to help address the parcel problem in Sudden Valley on an ongoing basis. And for the short term, it may mean that, every couple of months we might have the kind of thing that we had earlier in January, where we did have the ice barn open and they just brought several trucks full of packages and had them, people would basically drive up and they would sometimes walk the packages to the car. Sometimes people would walk over into the entry of the barn and get the packages, but it was very efficient. The Postal Service was very happy with it. And I didn't talk to a lot of Sudden Valley residents, but the ones that I did talk to when I visited to see what was going on were really happy with that service. Yes.
I can tell you from I picked up several packages there, and I thought it was really well organized, and kudos to everyone who was involved. It really meant, and it was amazing to see the volume of packages that had backlogged with the
it was. And I want to say kudos to our Parks and Rec staff, because they were the ones that did the lion's share on our side. The Postal Service, I thought their staff was excellent and well organized as well. And as I said, it was on very short notice. So we had people really step up on very little notice and work to make that work well. So I'm glad to hear your story, because that's what I'd heard from other folks, but it was a small sample, so I didn't want to assume that everyone had a great experience with that. But I think, I think most people were able to get what they needed. And the other thing that was nice is the Postal Service made their time available up as late as 8 at night, starting at like 10 in the morning until 8 at night. They were available so that pretty much anybody, despite whatever hours they worked, could find time to get in and get their packages. So thanks for those questions, Amy.
All right. Thank you, Amy. I'll go ahead and return you to the attendees too. All right. And we've got an open queue. If anybody's looking to jump in, we can put you first in line. I've got Linda. Linda, we'll go ahead and bring you on over here. And go ahead and unmute when you're ready.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine, Linda. Thanks.
How do you do? So two things I'd like to ask about. Normally, I know that after watching the board meeting, we have a new views editor and a reporter. We normally have our views posted online. I don't know if that is a function of the Linden Tribune or if it's a function of our staff, but we haven't had any of our views posted online. And we've got years of them online before, since November of 2021. And I wonder if, since you're here, you can follow up on that and figure out, because there should really be, I'm assuming, one for January and February online by now.
Sure.
And they're not there.
Well, that's good to hear. I wasn't aware they weren't there. I can tell you that the February edition, I just got proofs of it today. So actually,
come
John,
out late then. Okay, I got you.
So can I ask you, John, if there's been a problem with January getting that posted?
Yeah, I don't see December or January posted, and I believe that is an admin function. So we'll take care of that. We'll hunt those digital editions down and make sure that they're posted.
Great. Yeah, thanks for raising that, Linda, because
I think there's been an issue of who posts what.
Well, they did have a change in on their side, but I don't think it should be their responsibility to post that. They send us PDFs, and I think it's probably on us, but I'm not sure. but we'll look into it and make sure that we do get those posted because,
Okay.
I know that a lot of people want to know what's going on, and we certainly want people to know what's going on.
I usually read the paper copy, but every now and then there'll be something I want to go back and look at because I've gotten rid of my paper copy, and I think a lot of people do that here. And then there's nothing there. The only other thing I'd like you to please speak to, if you would, is I know when you were at the board meeting, you spoke about maintenance, and I guess I'd like to know what the status of maintenance is right now about, making sure that we have enough staff, that sort of thing, to
Sure.
fill the maintenance department.
So we're recruiting staff right now because we do have a shortage in maintenance, but we also have a contract with Stremler where they're doing some other work that's maintenance related. It's work they would have done anyway. But basically over the next couple of weeks, if we need it, we're going to identify things that accumulate because we don't have sufficient staff at present to do everything in-house. And as we get sort of packages of things together, we can put together as a project. We're addressing those either with our staff or using Stremler or other contractors that are already on call for us. And so the way that's going to work is, basically people already call in issues that they've got to the admin office. And when you make those calls, those are being logged. And, if it's an emergency, we get it out right away to somebody to deal with. First of all, we assess if it's an emergency because, I don't know how other people are, but, for me, sometimes something feels like an emergency, but the experts that come to look at my situation tell me it's not. So sometimes, we'll go ahead and look at things and see, is it something that needs to be dealt with immediately, or is it something that can wait a day or two or even a week or two? And then we'll put it into a package with other things that are in a similar location or have similar equipment needs or whatever, and then either get to it ourselves or get to it with the help of some contractors. But we expect to be fully staffed here in the next month or so. And in the meantime, we do have very good staff working on some of this stuff. And then we've got some other resources I set up that are chipping in as we need them.
I think there must be Stremler or somebody. I know I live up in Gate 5, and I know there's been branches all over Louiseview on the way up to my house, and they were all gone today, and the road looked quite neat and tidy for the first time since it started snowing and flooding, and we were having issues and stuff. So I know somebody's out there doing something. So that's why I was wondering what was going on.
Sure. And I think that what happened, I think that we had the sweeper, I think, was up in that neighborhood today as well. So those guys are, we still have people out working on these things.
Okay.
And the sweeper is working in that area. We're paying particular attention there because for the folks in the Southern Court area, it's essential that we keep it swept. So we're sweeping it at least twice a week. Because since Southern Court is suffering a slide, down by Lake Whatcom, the only way to get to those folks' houses with emergency vehicles, or any vehicles actually, is coming down through Louiseview, and it gets pretty steep there. And
yes,
so
indeed.
So the fire department
I've lived here too long and been up and down that road a couple of times.
Well, back when I lived in Sudden Valley, I would run up that road sometimes. It's a good workout. But I was younger then too, I have to confess. And the fire department at first thought that with the slide that they wouldn't be able to get a fire truck down to those folks if a fire happened. The good news is that after we swept it and stuff, they went and, they want to provide service. And so they carefully took their trucks up there, and they found they could in fact serve it as long as there's not snow or ice on the road. So we're trying to keep it as accessible as we can so that those residents have full access to emergency services, which hopefully they won't ever need. And then just a little bit more about that road. That's a major damage to Southern Court. It's gonna have to be completely rebuilt. So we're working on pursuing funding for that. It probably won't, we'll find the funding one way or another, but it's going to be quite expensive, and it probably won't be completed until September or October of this year. So it's a pretty long stretch because we have to wait for the slide to finish sliding. First of all, it's a slow motion slide, which is not, it sounds interesting, but it's really, I wish it'd just be fast and be done so we could get on with fixing it. But our hope is to have it open by September or October, so we don't have to deal with this again next winter.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Linda. We'll go ahead and move you back to the attendees. And we've got Libby up at this point. I'll go ahead and bring you over and unmute when you're ready.
Hi, Dan. Welcome. Very
Thank
glad
you.
to have you here. You mentioned that you were talking to Sheriff Elpo today, and I was wondering how the increased crime that's been going on in Sudden Valley is being addressed as far as the cars that have been stolen. There's also been some activity down at the Sudden Valley Market area, Tino's, and let's see, what is it? Oh, and the market. So anything come out of your conversations with Sheriff Elpo that you can share with us?
Sure. So, the first thing I want to share is that perception it feels like reality, but it's not always. Well, actually, what I should say is it is reality, but I'm not. What I did talk with Sheriff Elpo specifically about car thefts, because I'd heard some talk about that, and he said compared to almost any other community in Whatcom County, our car theft rate is really low, which doesn't mean that that's acceptable, but I'm just saying, we need to recognize that the attention, we're not going to get attention because of the rate of our car thefts. But nonetheless, what I raised with him was the fact that we used to have a neighborhood deputy here, and that I thought that would be helpful for a variety of reasons, whether or not there was a car theft issue. And he agreed, and he said, actually, they've been working on getting one back in place. What he said is that because of COVID, for a variety of reasons, they lost a number of their sheriff's deputies. Some were recruited out of state. Others chose to leave because I don't know. Well, I shouldn't say why others left for whatever reason. And so he had to replace those folks. And one of the things I remember from being at the city of Bellingham is that it takes a long time to replace a police officer or a firefighter, because they have to go through very specific training, and pass that training, they go to in the police case, they go to the state academy to get certified that they're competent in a whole variety of disciplines that we want our police officers, our public safety officers, to be competent in. The good news is, he said that they've got people most of the way through that now. So he expects within the next couple of months that we will have a neighborhood safety officer out here again, or neighborhood sheriff's deputy out here again. So I think that'll help, just because it'll give us a contact that we can reach out to and ask them to pay extra attention to certain areas if we're experiencing problems there. And so, whether it's talking about, car prowls or something happening at the Tino's area, or whether we're talking about cars that are being stolen in certain parts of Sudden Valley, we can direct them. They're part of what their intention is to build relationships with folks that are paying attention, that understand, that see things that are happening, and they can share that information and hopefully reduce that car theft and the other crime rates to zero, which it's always good to be aspirational, but let's see what we can do.
Okay, thank you. It did seem like there was, over the course of like 3 or 4 days, there were 3 different cars stolen. And I've never seen anything like that in living here 4 years. So just seemed like something's different, something's happening. So that'll be great to have a dedicated deputy out here. The other question that I have for you, maybe you could address for the group. I listened to this on the board meeting, but there are probably a lot of people here who did not hear it. And that is the status of El Agave and the clubhouse.
Sure, and I'd also invite you to find the latest addition to the views, because I actually wrote a long article on that in there, which is basically the same as my testimony at the board. And so the bottom line is that we are moving forward. We're still in the remediation phase. So I've had a lot of folks ask, when are we going to put out the contracts to rebuild? And the answer is, we can't put out the contracts until we know what the rebuilding is going to entail. And we won't know that until they finish the remediation. Unfortunately, the remediation was really complicated because there was a lot of damage done by water in our building. And that damage, there was a large extent of that damage that was caused because of how things were being managed inside El Agave. There is a lot of backstory there that I can't go into. I can tell you that our attorneys and their attorneys are talking to each other about how to address the problem. Right now, they have a valid lease. Nobody's been trying to kick them out or anything. Because I've heard, I'm saying that because I've heard rumors, people are saying, well, I heard they're being kicked out, or I've heard this or that. So right now what we're doing is we are trying to get through the cleanup as fast as we can. That was complicated and slowed down because of some of the snow, not on our part, but in terms of making it more difficult for the remediation folks to be able to get out to Sudden Valley for a few times when they were trying to work out here. And so, it's been a very complicated and slow process. I think, but I would direct people to read the Views article, because I think that kind of lays things out pretty comprehensively about what's going on. And, I don't even want to hazard a guess as to a time frame for when things will be reopened, but it's not going to be in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, it must be that. Do you know which Views that is? Because we usually read it, and I didn't.
It just came out. Well,
Okay.
I just got the proofs. I think it was this morning, or it might have been. Yeah, it was this morning. So the print. So they give us So I understand that it actually is. It'll probably be out within a couple of days. So I'm sort of seeing things ahead, because they give us proofs just to make sure there's no egregious errors that were made, and there weren't. At least not that I saw. I haven't heard from anybody else that wrote something there that had an issue. Some of the board members' pictures were not flattering, nor was mine, but I think that I can live with that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Libby. All right, we'll return you here as well. And 24 folks tonight. Anybody else like to jump up here? Just use raise hand in Zoom, and we'll bring you in for a question for Ask the GM. In the meantime here, maybe I'll ask something. There's been a lot of talk about partnerships, and so far tonight talking about the sheriff and the county roads, and are there any of these partnerships that are coming up that you're working on that sort of excites you for the future of Sudden Valley?
Yeah, well, there's a few things I'm working on. First of all, I think it's really nice to have conversations with folks and make them aware about Sudden Valley and what all is happening out here, as well as just the numbers of people. I mean, if we were incorporated, we'd be the 4th largest city in Whatcom County. And I think that, for a variety of reasons, we've never gotten the attention that we deserve as a community, and not just the attention in terms of words, but also the attention in terms of, if you're an incorporated community, they get sort of direct access to some pipelines of federal dollars that are passed to the state and then the county to communities. And so, I've raised that with the county executive, and he's aware of that, and he wants to work with us on some things. And one of the things that he wants to work with us on is trying to bring back some childcare to Sudden Valley that's professionally provided. And so we're starting those talks. So this would be preschool care, as well as after school and before school care, which I noticed there was a dearth of when I came back here. When I lived here, there was a child care facility in the area that used to provide the mailboxes as well. This is going back, like I said, quite a while, and that building doesn't even exist anymore. And so he's very excited about working with us to try to provide that. I just had a follow-up conversation for my initial conversation with him, with David Webster and some of the staff at the Opportunity Council, because they when I raised it with the executive, then he had talked to them. And so they did some research, and they found that there are no, I'm sure there's some at-home childcare providers, but other than that, there's nothing in Sudden Valley. There is something at the FERS, in Geneva. There's something in Alger, and I forget where the third one was. Nothing, the closest was probably the FERS down in Alger. And so, especially these days, it used to be that most people in Sudden Valley were commuting physically to work, and a lot of times now they're telecommuting to work. But even when you're working at home, if you've got to care for 2 children in your home, it can be really distracting. And it's nice both for the kids and for the working parents, to have access to quality childcare that's also affordable. And that's partly what he is interested in, is making sure that we have, that he would help us if this all pencils out. So I want to, caveat this with, we are in early talks. There are some funds available, but we're looking at building, rehabilitating one of the structures we've got in the recreational corridor, to serve as that purpose, not only for that, but to serve as other things too. But that would be one of the purposes for that rehabilitation, which would then in turn, provide a great access. I mean, what better place to have kids going to a pre or post school care situation, or a pre-kindergarten care situation, than a place where you've got all these recreational facilities and fields and the like to play in. So that is something that we're working on, and I'm optimistic about. But I just do have to caveat it that this is not nowhere close to being a done deal. But I was excited that the county executive is really pushing. He wants to see this happen too.
I bet that'd be pretty exciting to a lot of the working families out in Sudden Valley. Be able to have their childcare a little closer to home.
Yeah.
Looks like Linda's got her hand raised again here. I'll go ahead and bring Linda back on over.
Hi,
All
Dan.
right.
When you were speaking about childcare, there's been a discussion online about the Barnes play area and the fact that ever since the flood that area has been, they've had it closed off, and they said that they need to replace the pea gravel. I don't have any children, but there's a lot of people are saying, is it still contaminated? Are you going to replace the pea gravel that's down there in the sand? And what's sort of a timeline for having that done? Because a lot of people use that area down there.
Sure. So I'm glad you raised that question, because that's actually something that I've had some internal discussions with folks about, is what the status of that is and what we need to do about it. So the status is that we are pretty sure we don't have to replace the pea gravel. We've talked to some of the health experts at the county and elsewhere, and it's one of those things that remediates itself over time, given enough time. And there's been quite a while now since we had the contaminated water flow through there. There weren't any chemical contaminants. We had looked into whether or not it would make sense to add a disinfectant to that, just to be extra careful. And for a variety of reasons, including the disinfectants that used tend to linger and become more of a problem than the contaminant itself that you're trying to get rid of. And also because we're in the watershed, we have to be very careful. And there's strict prohibitions about using certain chemicals in the watershed in a place where they might then get into the groundwater, water into the lake. But it looks like it's probably okay now. I mean, it's very likely it's okay now. I don't want to give you a guarantee, because I don't have the data that say for sure it's okay. But I can tell you that what we're looking at is finishing the cleanup of that area in terms of wiping down all the structures, making sure everything is cleaned and decontaminated, and getting greater assurances than we currently have that in fact it's safe to reopen it. And we expect that to happen by the end of the month, probably at the very latest early March. I forgot how hardy kids were out here, so I hadn't really expected a lot of kids to be playing in the playground in January, but kudos to them. But I want to assure you, like I saw a picture on some Facebook page somebody sent me of some kids playing on the gravel. I can tell you that my kids played in a lot of places that, I would have cringed had I seen them do that, but I'm pretty sure that was actually a relatively benign situation there. But again, we want to exercise due caution, so we will, and do everything we can to make sure that in fact it's safe. And so for better or worse, that gravel they've got in there, whoever put that in decided they wanted to really make sure we wouldn't have to replace the gravel. So they put in enough gravel that it would cost us $20,000 to haul it away. And at the same time, we'd have to haul back some other stuff to replace it. We could probably have done with about half that gravel, but anyway, it's good gravel. and it should be at this point safe to play in. But again, before I say absolutely it's safe, we do have it taped off, I think, and coned off again, because we were aware, we found out that people were playing on there, had not noticed the signs that warn against it. A lot of things have gotten damaged or disappeared in the storms and the like. So we'll make sure that it's appropriately marked again, to not play in until we can give you, full assurance it's safe. And I expect that'll be in the next 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay, like I say, I saw that note and a lot of people have been asking, and a lot of people are saying exactly what you are. Hey, we've had lots of rain since then. It's probably all clean, but in theory it's marked that it's, people aren't supposed to be on it and it's hazardous. So it's just a matter of, for the families, because like I say, a lot of times that you see people down there all the time with their kids.
Sure. And I appreciate the question, because I think, I know that when people are having questions like that, it's nice to at least be able to get an answer, even though I can't answer as completely as I wish I could. It's just not, I don't have the full answer, but that's the best answer I've got at present.
But but it's an answer. It's an official answer rather than everybody playing, what is the right answer. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Linda. Right, and we've got Leslie up at this point. I'll go ahead and bring Leslie on over, and you can unmute when you're ready.
Okay, you hear me now?
I hear you great.
Okay, thank you. I was wondering if you had a chance yet to go over the reserve study. We do have a reserve study here for both the capital expenditures and for our roads. And it does suggest repair and replacement for all of the different assets in the community. And as you probably are aware, we will not be doing every single thing that has been recommended by the reserve people. First of all, there's not enough money to do everything, and
Right.
things just fail at different rates, and sometimes it's before and sometimes after their recommendation. When will you have gone over that and be able to make a recommendation to the board of where you think our funds should be spent this year for both the capital and for our roads?
So I haven't gone over it with a fine tooth comb, but I have looked it over. I know that, we've started some discussions with the board, we meaning myself and other folks on the administration staff. And, we're going to be moving forward with those discussions over the next month or so. I'm not sure. I don't have a firm timeline, because that's really driven partly by the board, about when we will be ready to move forward with that capital program. But it's going to be happening pretty early this spring, because we have to get things out and then ready to go to bid. So we're working on that diligently right now. And I'd say, by mid-March at the latest, but probably before then.
We didn't do much of anything on the roads last year, and there's some places that really need some work, and we really should tie that in with the reserve studies to see, what has been recommended for us and where we should go.
And I agree, and I will tell you that we are paying attention to budgeting and trends and costs. And I will say that I was actually pleasantly surprised when I looked at the books that Sudden Valley is actually in overall good financial shape, particularly compared to a lot of HOAs, because it is more challenging to adequately fund a community like this than a community that, like a lot of municipalities, they have industries or larger commercial centers that provide a lot of the funding. And in Sudden Valley, we have to make do with what we raise among ourselves. And so, I think that this board and prior boards have been good stewards overall to get us to this point. And, the golf course has been pretty successful during COVID, which is also helpful. But we are going to be looking at what capital we feel like we can prudently spend and where best to apply that in the coming year, in the weeks to come.
Yeah, there were a couple of big windfalls last year. One of them was over $300,000 that we got from PPP, and the other one was, of course, as you mentioned, that the golf course, which brought in $200,000. So that's a good chunk of money.
It's very helpful to have fun. It's always better to have that than to have it go the other way, which unfortunately happens as well, as we're experiencing with Southern Court.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Leslie. All right, we've got Nathan up next with Megan afterwards. I'll go ahead and bring Nathan on over now, and you can unmute. Yeah.
Hi. Yeah. I just wanted to get on here and I do have a question, but I wanted to say that we really appreciate you doing this, and I really appreciate all the things that I'm hearing. I can't tell you, and I'm sure you've heard it, that we need really to move forward in Sun Valley. There's so many, kind of negative behavior and thoughts about Sun Valley in the past, and it's just going to be a relief. And I can't tell you how, awesome it's going to be to have a more positive outlook on the future. So thank you. My question is that the community used to have a community cupboard. Recently, I hear that it was kind of decommissioned, and we're no longer doing the community cupboard. I could be wrong, or I could have had misinformation. But I know there was a ton of food up there that, is now probably, just sitting there, maybe going to waste. I used to take it and, distribute it to the blessing boxes and to, other people that may be in need. I know there were other, volunteers helping with that cupboard. I'm just wondering, are we doing away with that cupboard altogether, or is there plans to keep it going? I know one of the recreation crew people was really passionate about it as well. So I'm just kind of wondering your thoughts on that.
Sure. So I don't know the full history of that, but I do know that it stopped function. It stopped being a food pantry for whatever reason. Sometime, I think, last fall. I'm not sure when. It was before I came on board, and so I'm not sure what the story was around that. But I do think that Sudden Valley is a place that could probably benefit from having there's a diversity of folks in terms of what folks' lived experiences here. Some people are really struggling to get by, and so I think having some resources available locally is really helpful when people are on hard times. One of the things that I thought I might do is reach out to Mike Cohen, who runs the Bellingham Food Bank, and see, they run auxiliary food banks in other communities, and I'm not sure what's involved with doing that, but see if there's something like that that might make sense for us. But I really haven't given it enough of a look yet. I've got a lot of things that I'm juggling right now, but it is something that I think is very important in terms of part of the undergirding of a good community is making sure that we provide some resources for folks that are falling on hard times. So I'm certainly going to be looking into that, but I don't have anything beyond what I said about maybe talking to the Bellingham Food Bank and seeing, what they might be willing to do to work with us on some of those things.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate that. And when you do come around to that, I understand, you got a lot going on for sure. You do have a lot of volunteers that are willing to jump up, at any moment and help. So
Sure.
you definitely have us to lean on. So thank you so much for doing this today. I appreciate it.
Great. Well, thank you. And volunteers are a great asset in the community. And I know that the food bank relies extensively on volunteers. I volunteered at the Bellingham Food Bank for a number of years, 3 decades ago now. So, it doesn't feel like that long ago. But it makes you feel good and it helps other people out. It's a great thing to do, and it really helps the community. So thanks for your service in that.
All right. Thanks, Nathan. And I've moved you back, and we'll make sure we get Megan on over here. Megan, I've brought you over to the meeting. If you could go ahead and unmute whenever you're ready.
I think I've got it there. If you'd let me know you can hear me. Okay, thanks, John. Hi, John. My name is Megan Pike, and I live on Plum Lane in Gate 3. Just want to do a quick note of thanks for you being here and doing this talk. Really appreciate that, but I know it's getting late on time, so I'll just ask my question. So my question is regarding the transition of bringing you on as GM to manage Sudden Valley. We found ourselves in the unique situation of being without a manager for quite some time. And so that put the load of managing our staff and community onto our volunteer board of directors. And I know I can only just imagine the absolutely momentous undertaking that was for them. And I thank them a lot for all of their work and time they put in to keep our community afloat in the interim. What I'm wondering about is the process of transitioning you in. to that staff management role and letting our board directors transition out of that responsibility back into more community oversight as opposed to day-to-day management of staff. So if you could maybe just speak a little bit to that process. How do you feel it's going? Is it been at the point where they've kind of are able to be more governance and you're able to do more staff side, or are we kind of still in the progress of making that happen?
So I'll say, first of all, thanks for the question, because that's a sophisticated question. I really appreciate people that think about things like this, because that's kind of what I do, because I'm a nerd. And before I took the job, actually, that was a topic of conversation for me with the board, because I wanted to make sure that having served, half of them served as executive GM, as the general manager for a period of quite a while. And so I wanted to make sure that they understood that ultimately, when you hire a manager, then they would go back to governance. And in fact, as you noted, almost all of them are full-time employees someplace, and they are looking forward to returning to simply dealing with governance issues. So we agreed on a transition period. And, originally it was going to be sometime in early February. Recently, we've extended a little bit, just because there were so many things going on at the beginning of my tenure in terms of snow events and other things that took a lot of time. And then we also had some staff depart, and we've got some holes to fill. And so until those holes are filled, we've got a couple of senior managers we have to replace and the like, as well as some folks on the maintenance department. And so until those holes are filled, that puts a lot of that extra burden ends up falling on me. And so they've agreed to stay in specific roles in the interim until, like I said, probably middle of February, probably not any later than the end of February, at which point it'll just be, I'll be the manager, they'll be the governance folks. It's kind of, I use the analogy of mayor versus city council, where city councils provide the bumpers, if you will, around within which the mayor operates, and the mayor takes the budgets and the like that the council provide, and then figures out how best to carry out the policies that the council or other councils before them have created to guide what the community wants to do. And then, of course, I also provide them advice on what I think the best way to get to a certain goal would be. And so we have some discussions around that. So right now, we've made a lot of progress. I've heard from a number of folks that overall they're happy to see some of the changes that are happening as people are settling into what their roles are, and having more recognition of just having someone who's not a placeholder. And that is not meant in any way as anything pejorative towards the board members, because it is a lot of work to do even a quarter of a general manager's role while you're working a full-time job, because a general manager's job is not a 40-hour-a-week job, or else I wouldn't be here at 7:56 at night. But I also want to say that I think the transition is going well, and I'm enjoying getting back into the saddle again, as it were. I'm enjoying meeting people. I do like this kind of interaction. So I want to thank all of you who took time out of your evenings. This is also something you're not getting paid for. You're volunteering to come and give me information and allow me to share information with you that hopefully then spreads to the community as well. So I want to say thanks to everyone here tonight for your part in participating, for caring about your community and being engaged, because that's really what makes the community better. And sort of echoing what Nathan said earlier, that I think that this is a place that has always fought a reputation that is not accurate. This is a place that is a wonderful community to live in, to raise your kids in. It's got a wonderful golf course that still doesn't treat me fairly when I play it. But I really like being here and working with all of you. And I look forward to getting all of you, or to meeting all of you more in the future. And I'm also, for the time being, I'm going to do these every 2 weeks until, I get a sense that people have gotten sufficiently up to speed on who I am and what I'm doing. Then I may go down to once a month. If there's demand, I'll keep doing it every couple of weeks, because I really find it engaging and informing to hear from you. So thanks for all of you for being involved in with us here tonight. And also thanks to John for making sure that my lights stay on as I'm talking to you.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate your response.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Megan. Coming up on 8 o'clock. We got time for one more, or are we?
Yeah, we have time. If there's somebody that wants to ask one, I'd certainly be happy to answer another question. Then I think we can call it a night.
Sounds like we got time for one more question. If anybody wants to jump up here, there will be another session. When's our next session of this?
It's 2 weeks, but I can't remember the exact date. I want to say the 18th. Is that right? No, that's. I don't know. It'll be on the website.
I've got it.
And hopefully we'll work on the link to see if we can get it where it's a little bit less of an effort.
So on our signage, it shows as Thursday, February 10th.
Yeah, it shouldn't. We should probably move that out a week from that because we're having this one now. So I'd say let's put it out to the week after that. So maybe the 17th.
Okay. So everybody here and on YouTube, we're going to go ahead and update that information. We'll set that to Thursday, February 17th, and same time, 3 to 4.
Well,
earlier.
We're gonna. Well, I'll ask. Maybe folks can chime in because the original idea was I wanted to do some of these at 7 so that folks would have a chance to participate if they were working. And if it's not a problem maybe we'll just try another one at 7. And because I think most people can make it at 7 if they choose to. And that way we're not excluding people that have to work.
All right. So we'll go ahead and update that and get the word out that we're going to move that to February 17th.
Yeah. And so I think we'll keep them at 7 unless I hear a bunch of folks that say, no, that really doesn't work for me. In which case I'll try split ones. I'll do some at 4 and some at 7.
Great. Well, no more hands raised tonight, looks like.
So I'd just like to say thanks again. Again, it's wonderful to be in this community. And, I appreciate all the passions that I've heard of from folks in the community. One of the things that's good for folks to know about me is I have very thick skin, thanks to serving in office before. But I really enjoy having dialogue with folks and hearing your thoughts and why you think them, especially when you don't think the same way I do, because I already know what I think. And if someone can show me different ways of thinking that help me understand something more fully and come to a different conclusion, I'm always happy to entertain those. So thanks for your engagement tonight and for your concern and care for the community. And I look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks and around Sudden Valley.
All right. Thanks, Dan. Thanks, everybody. And have a good night.